people always ask, like, how do you keep the excitement alive? You kind of work with your man, which is kind of true. We don't like work side by side in like a cubicle, but we kind of work together. Yeah. And we also have our 2 babies together. Obviously, we live under the same roof, and many times either you'll kick me out or I'll kick you out of like a working room in the house if we need quiet time, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the question that we always get, even with our own team members, is like, how do you delineate, when is it parent time, or when is it sexy love time, or when is it, work time? So I guess we could start there, because you do have many identities. So later on, when we have our date night,
which is tonight,
which is
the only reason why I accepted to come on this brave table, because I am scared to be on the brave table. But you're so right. We have many identities, and I have many identities. You have many identities. I think early on in the relationship, we learned this trick that you could call dissociation in a way, but you kind of give each other a name. We were giving ourselves names where we said, oh, this is the place when you play the role of X, and here is when you play the role of Y. And sometimes that was even in the same context, you would have different names. Like, for example, in the bed, you could have 3 different names. I could have 3 different names, not because we're taking on an identity.
And sometimes we were. Sometimes we were.
And we were. And we would take on a different identity to play a different part and bring variety in the otherwise repetitive work that one does. And I think that's where it gets really interesting. And I think that's one of the reasons why our relationship stays interesting, is because we know the different identities we play. Yeah.
And juicy. Yes. And I think that because when you're home, you're dad.
I am.
Daddy or dada. For now it's dada, actually. Yeah. A lot of times. Or Ajit, because now we have mom and dad. Your parents are here. Your amazing parents are here from India, which we'll get into in just a little bit. But and then you have AJ, and AJ is like your work name, basically. Unless I'm really annoyed with you, and then I'll say Ajit.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think those work names and those, names is a way to dissociate, but also it is a great lesson in just generally knowing our boundaries, is to know, hey, right now you're playing the role of X, and then you're playing the role of Y. And you can then separate, hey, who's talking right now? Who is it that is communicating right now? And I think that's a great trick that actually you introduced into our relationship. So we did not have that mishmash that happens, especially when partners work together.
Well, and I think the mundaneness
work goes to bed,
and then it kind of and you were really good about creating boundaries around where we stop talking about work, and then we transition into now parenthood, because a few years ago we didn't have 2 kids. We didn't even have 1. So it was, I think, easier to kind of mesh work and play and love. And I remember vividly one time, I think we were probably doing a workshop or something in like KL in Kuala Lumpur. And we were in the hotel room, and we were just getting in bed. And I looked at my phone, and then you were like, wait, why are you doing this right now? I was asking you about some tech thing that needed to get done. And you were like, no, we need to like talk about our agreements. And so that was the birth of us really talking about boundaries. And that was like, 5 years ago now?
5 years. Yeah, it was just our starting of the relationship. And I think that the great lesson there for anybody that is working with a partner or working even with a friend, this happens in my reality where I train coaches, and you also train coaches, but definitely comes to the question very often, I'm working with a friend. How do I know when I'm having a drink with them as a friend, and when is it that I'm coaching? Like, because you define it. You say, this is when we are working as a coach, and this is when you're working as a friend. That's kind of how relationships work as well. You have to be definitive. And it is hard for the first time that you do it, because you have to kind of go, I'm not going to help you right now because our boundaries suggest, or we need to have boundaries here. And even if I know I could help you in 2 minutes, I'm going to draw the line so this doesn't happen again. So you're building behavior between each other as well by respecting each other's space. And I think that's a key outcome that one can have to say, okay, that's how you build a relationship, really.
And I love that about you, because you're you've been the king around this, and you've been so good at it that you've trained so many of our team members, and we've run several different teams in different capacities. And so you are like boss when it comes to that, and I think that's very sexy of you, actually.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And it is for my own mental sanity. I think it's an important thing for teams to run, and for people who want to be entrepreneurs and want to run many companies. Like, we run 3 companies between us together, and you can only run that if you know exactly what is when, and how clearly you are outlined to say, oh, now we're kind of mixing and matching. Let's not do that, because that confuses everybody.
See you next time at the Brave Table.